Bienvenidos a EO Impact Drivers Podcast. Este año, nuestro enfoque es claro. Make it personal, make it powerful, and make it matter. Y no hay mejor manera de vivirlo que conversando con líderes que nos inspiran para llevar el impacto al próximo nivel. Así que antes de comenzar, recuerden suscribirse al podcast y compartirlo con personas que puedan inspirarse con estas historias. Hoy estamos con ustedes, María Fernanda Revis, CEO de Impactivo.
Hola, yo soy Meli Torres, CBO y fundadora de On Point Strategy.
Y hoy tenemos el privilegio de entrevistar a Scott Empringham, que es CEO y conocido como el Billion Dollar Strategist. Con más de 20 años de experiencia, Scott ha ayudado a marcas globales como Ford a generar más de $1,000 millones en ventas, utilizando marketing digital y diferentes recetas de AI. Tiene varios productos que los pueden buscar en su página de internet. Así que con eso dicho, Scott, welcome to EO Impact Drivers Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
We are thrilled to have you, Scott.
Thank you so much. Thank
So,
you.
Scott, we need to know, why are you known as the $1 billion man?
A few years back, I was hired by Ford Motor Company to sell vehicles via social media. And I had the unique good fortune to run a campaign. We generated over 1 million leads in about 13 months. We matched them back to $1 billion worth of sales, and the name stuck. And I was certainly happy it did stick.
Wow. And what was the strategy behind that?
The strategy was something I talk about in my workshops. Many people, when they focus on advertising a product or service, they focus on what? They focus on the people that are most likely to buy right now, this weekend or this month. Our strategy was to not necessarily just focus on those, but also focus on warm leads and cold leads, people that weren't necessarily in market right now. So we opened up the strategy. We created some different messaging for them. That was number one. And then number two, we actually got all the dealers involved. We took one campaign that was done by the factory, and we said to 2,000 dealers, how would you like to jump into this campaign and advertise this one campaign as well? And we made it very attractive for them to do that. They all put money in. And the money that was actually spent by the dealers eclipsed the money that was spent by the factory, and the campaigns blew up.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
So, Scott, we've had the privilege of hearing you speak. And in your speech, you share a story which is very heartwarming. And it's your story about losing it all and starting all over again. Can you share with us a little about that journey from particularly hitting rock bottom and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. I mentioned in my presentation that a few years ago, I was on stage in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it was a wonderful time. They called me the $1 billion man. My agency had hit 10 million. I had 40 employees. Life was really good. And when I got back that following weekend, everything changed. And so entrepreneurs, I'm sure, can identify with this. Sometimes the market changes. Sometimes your personal life changes. I was hit with two things. I was going through a divorce. So my wife and I separated and got divorced. And at the same time, two of my largest clients had fired their ad agencies that were my clients, and 90% of my revenue just stopped. 40 employees, lots of overhead, no cash, no clients, now no marriage, and everything was over. And I had to shut my office down, and that was it. And I was stuck with about $1 million of debt at the time, personally liable for that, laying flat on my couch, wondering how I was going to survive, how I was going to turn this around, and really no prospects were in sight. And it was a dark day.
And it's so relevant to the times that we're living right now. With AI, with all of the changes in the world, so much uncertainty, so much need for innovation. And I know your story is about innovation. So how did you go from there to building, I've taken tons of training on AI, and yours is some of the best.
Thank you. I'm going to take one detour only because people will say, how did you rebuild the business? And certainly there's marketing lessons and certainly there's business lessons. But for me, the biggest lesson, the biggest thing I needed to address was really me. And people say, build the man, build the business, or build the woman, build the business. Every entrepreneur knows when they are at the top of their game, they're on fire. When their personal life, they were struggling in their personal life, their business is going to struggle, whether you're the CEO or a manager or anything in between. For me, as I started to try to rebuild my business, I knew that I'd built a $10 million business before. I knew that I had a client list. I knew that somehow I could turn this thing around and rebuild. But as I started that process, I was praying one night. Sorry. Wow. I was praying one night, And I realized that if I didn't change some things about my personal life, I knew that I would ultimately lose it again. I felt a tap on the shoulder, and I tap on the shoulder. And I called my buddy and I said, I think I want to be baptized. And he goes, you're 50 years old. You never stepped foot in a church. I said, but I keep feeling this prompting. I don't know what it is, but I want to see it through. So I called him. He said, I'd be happy to take you to church with me. Within a couple of months, I got baptized. I was single, got baptized, and things started to fall into place. Once I made some fundamental changes in my life, and I still get choked up today, everything started to change. My relationship with my kids started to change. My relationship with my ex-wife started to change. We began to parent in a different way, and my wife just looked at me and said, who's this new guy showing up? And I'll never forget, I'm driving my kids through the drive-thru, and my kid said to me on just a random summer day, she said, you know what? My daughter, she was 12 at the time or 11 at the time. She goes, it's kind of like we're seeing our dad become a better person every day. And I mean, I just started bawling. And my daughter said to me, hey, geez, she said, are you crying? And I said, no, I'm not crying. I just and things just started changing. So once I made those fundamental shifts in my life, everything just started to change.
Mm-hmm. Before you go into the, because that story resonated a lot with me, and that's where I found EO too. So tell me about, the role that EO plays into that, phase of your life.
There's a guy sitting right over here that when things were really bad, as a man, I can only speak from my experience. Men, typically, if you ask a man how he's doing, I don't care how bad it is, he goes, I'm doing fine. I'll figure it out. One day, it's 4th of July. I was really hungover. I don't drink anymore, but I was really hungover. I'd lost my business, I'd lost my marriage, and I'd had a bender the night before. And my EO friends messaged me on WhatsApp, happy 4th of July. There's no chance I was responding. And then finally, one of the guys messaged me again, said, Scott, you're the only one that didn't check in. How are you doing? And I decided at that moment, either I was going to ignore it and kind of go off the deep end, or just respond honestly. So I responded, not good. 2 seconds later, my phone rang. He was hosting a party for 4th of July with 20, 30 people, about 15 minutes away. Told him how I was doing. I broke down and I said, I'm not doing well. And he said, I'll be right over. I said, no, don't come over. Don't come over. 15 minutes later, he's knocking at the door. He'd left everybody at the party. That's EO.
That's EO.
One of the beautiful things about your story is we're talking about entrepreneurship, we're talking about the business, we're talking about innovation. But at the end, you said build the man, and then the man builds the business.
100%.
And I think that's a lot of what draws us to EO. It's this connection that really helps us become the person that we know that we are and sometimes forget to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, now can we talk about artificial intelligence?
We can absolutely talk about artificial intelligence. Actually, I met Scott at the Global Speakers Academy. That was a couple of months after all of this was happening.
Yeah.
When I met you, you mentioned this story,
Yeah.
but I had no idea that you were going through all of these things specifically then. I've seen your trajectory from the, chats in AI to the work that you are doing now, which, again, I was with Tony Robbins and the best business coaches, and the work that you do is not just on par, but it's there, it's at that level. So how, we're talking about building the man, building the business, but frameworks that you could share with us on how you go from point A to point B, because it's been a journey.
Yeah. You mentioned frameworks. When I had to start all over as a marketing person, 20 years in marketing, 20 plus years in marketing, the single biggest mistake I saw small businesses make is they never really got clear on their ideal customer. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
The riches are in the niches. Get clear on your ideal customer. Once you know those things, you can craft messages and offers that will attract your ideal customers. Mm-hmm. But who actually really spends the time and the money and the energy to do that? Well, when I lost everything, it was not a theory anymore. It was not something where I had 90 days to figure it out or a year to figure it out. I needed to think about who I was going to attract into my new business, this weekend, next weekend, like now, because I had $1 million hanging over me. But the bank had called and they said, we're so sorry the business has gone under, but you have 90 days to start making payments or we're taking the house. So it was not theory for me. So I had to get crystal clear on my ideal customer and the niche I was going to serve and the offers I was going to make. I had a framework for that. I had some questions that I would give people in my workshops and stuff. When AI came out, that's when like the light bulbs started lighting up. I thought to myself, I wonder if I could take all these frameworks, prompts, essentially prompts, and I could have people fill in the blanks. And could they just copy, paste, fill in a handful of blanks and get these amazing results? And I started doing that and sharing it in my workshops. I did it for myself and it worked amazingly well. And like I said in my workshop, in 88 days, I paid off $500,000 in loans to the bank, free and clear. And I started sharing these prompts and frameworks with people running small businesses. And I would give them to them. I'd say, fill this out, copy and paste it and see what happens. And they would do it. And I would get this feedback. And then I'd say, okay, you ready to create emails? Do the same thing. Copy, paste, fill in the blank. They'd get these email campaigns. Ads, let's do the same thing. Blogs, video scripts, all this other stuff. And so I just took everything I knew about marketing, like a recipe or a blueprint, gave it to people, said fill in the blank, copy, paste, and hit enter. And that worked for Midjourney to create images, VO3 to create commercials, blogs to create what we call the BuzzFeed blogs, and everything in between. And so across the board, we'd share that, and the results have been fantastic.
And should the marketing agency be afraid of you in this technology?
Yes. If they don't adopt AI now, they shouldn't be afraid of me. They should be afraid of what every business should be afraid of, which is a lack of innovation. If they're not innovating, if they're not moving forward, if they're not adopting new technologies, then I don't care whether it's architecture or government, whatever it is, if we're not innovating and adopting new technologies and embracing them and looking at ways to use them, then you're in trouble regardless. But yeah, my presentation is called Fire Your Marketing Agency. And I've had people call me and say, dude, I'm a marketing agency. And I use that. It's a bit of hyperbole, but the idea is the same. If you're not innovating, you're in trouble.
That's true. That's true.
You know, I've been hearing, and I think this is the thing that rings the truest, is with respect to AI is not going to replace humanity. But someone that uses AI might just take your job.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I think that's a lot of the tools that you bring. How can entrepreneurs find out more about your work and work with you specifically to level up and get that level of innovation?
Sure. If they want to find me, they go to scottempringham.com, scottempringham.com, and you can enroll in a free workshop and come to the workshop. And I'll give you the prompts and the frameworks. There's a link on there to hire me to speak to your organization, to your group, YPO, EO, whatever it is. There's links to my courses and my coaching programs. They're really inexpensive. We can help you stand up campaigns. We can help you get going. We can help you take it all internally. If you're struggling with an agency, you're struggling and you're frustrated, you're paying too much, it's taking too long, and the results aren't that great, what if you could do it all internally for free? And I told in the presentation I did today, I said, build your own marketing agency for about $500. Your own $1 million agency for $500. And people, when they first hear that, think couldn't be. And then when they see the workshop, they say it could be. It is. I'm going to do it for $250 a month, and they can get all the tools they need most of the time for less than an iPhone. You know, that's what it's costing.
And that's wonderful, not only for, medium or large, companies, but small business and startups.
Yeah.
That startups struggle a lot, and we have an accelerator program that it will be a benefit. And I saw a lot of participants from our program in your workshop this morning, which excited me a lot.
Yeah, there was a gentleman that came up and he goes, would this work if I'm just starting a business? I said, not only does it work if you're just starting a business, it's mandatory if you're starting a business. It'll give you an edge. It'll give you a leg up. It'll give you an advantage.
That's nice.
And I want to talk about generosity. Just going to your website is a gift for anyone who needs to see what good AI prompts look like, and just the amount of added value that you get just for free from your website is really something pretty remarkable.
Well, thank you. What we did is in the workshop, I think there's 30 some odd free prompts, everything. So in my world in advertising, one time I ran into what I thought was like the encyclopedia of advertising. It was a gentleman, he was a creative director. And you could point to a campaign, an advertising campaign. Let's say you were advertising aspirin. He would say, the type of campaign you're going to need is called Pain, Agitate, Solve. And I said, what is that? a great aspirin campaign or anything that relieves pain, you identify the pain for your target audience, you agitate it to needle them a little bit more so they feel the pain and show them how you can solve it. That's a recipe for persuasion. It's a recipe to move people to action. And and it turns out as I was interviewing him, I found this big ad agency, he had dozens and dozens of recipes to move people to action, to persuade people. Mm-hmm. And so I modeled that, Tony Robbins' phrase, I modeled that and created prompts for about 36 very common frameworks to move people to action, depending upon your product, depending upon your niche, B2B, B2C, across the board. But all those frameworks and prompts are free.
And I have to ask a question. What do your daily rituals look like? Because you have an amazing amount of energy.
I'm a little bit nuts with my daily regimen. So I said, and I'll share this, is after I lost it all, mm-hmm. I got this great business coach. And he looked at my calendar. And now I was raising 2 kids, making them breakfast, taking them to school. And then I'd jump on conference calls and I had a stacked day, like we all do. And he looked at my calendar. He said, "You've got a new business. Show me on your calendar, Scott, where's your new business? Show me your calendar block off for new business." I said, "Well, I'm wedging it in between here and client meetings." He said, No. Where's the time on your calendar that you're focused on sales, on originating new proposals, on thinking, deep thinking? I said, "It's not there." And he said, "Then you are doomed to fail because you're not spending time as you would maybe a newborn. Mm-hmm. You have to spend that time." I found time on the calendar, and so I got early and early. So my daily ritual looks something like this. 3 a.m. the alarm goes off. The first hour of my day is just filling up. Reading, journaling, meditation, and scripture to just prime my heart, my mind, my emotions to just be ready to go. And I don't feel like that at 3, believe me. At 3 o'clock, I'm not feeling that way. But by around 4 o'clock, I am vibrating. 4 to 5, I exercise. I've lost 25 pounds in the last year and a half. Just exercise 6 days a week. And by 5:30, I'm at my desk working on the main thing in my business till about 7:30. 5:30 to 7:30. And then it's usually taking the kids to school and do that. But before I take the kids to school, I've had 3 or 4 hours just for me to fire up. And now you stack that. When you look at the math, it's crazy. 2 hours a day on your main thing in your business is 10 hours a week. And I even do it with another EO group that is all insane at 6 a.m. on Saturday, a little bit more sleep. So from 6 to 8, we work on our main thing, 6 days a week. That transformed my life. Mm-hmm. Wow. Reading, journaling, meditation. So 1 hour for me, 1 hour for exercise, 2 hours for my main thing on my business. You stack that up over a course of 100 days as an example. You won't believe the changes you can make. It's hard. It's not easy. But the changes you can make are mind-blowing. And
I've heard you talk about the main thing. Can you share with the audience what that is? How do you do it? Do you just sit down and say, what's the main thing?
Great question. I actually do, and my coach shared this with me. The main thing for me might be different than the main thing for you. Mm-hmm. But so the main thing for me when I was starting my business was, he said, sell. If you're under $1 million, you only have one job. Sell.
Yes.
Sell, and I was at 0. So he said, if you're not selling, you're in trouble. And this gentleman over here actually gave me my number that I had to hit every month. And he said, that's the one I wanted to post it on. I was worried about all these KPIs. He said, stop it. And he's a CFO and brilliant. And he gives me one number. I posted it up on my laptop. And every morning I would see that number. And I would spend my first 2 hours, proposals, new business, initiating. And by the way, the first 20, 30, 40 days was like death. Nothing would come back in certain areas where I was planting seeds. But just like anything else, drop in the bucket. And then all of a sudden you're planting seeds. And I love the metaphor of planting seeds because seeds sometimes take a while. Mm-hmm. It's not trial and error. It's planting seeds and you never know. And then all of a sudden seeds started popping up. And now today I'm blessed with more opportunities, but it was daily, 6 days a week, planting seeds. And now I'm benefiting.
I'm happy to hear that because that's what I always mention to my BD group. And you have to be patient. You have to be consistent, but you have to be patient.
Mm-hmm. Both those, that's the key.
Yeah. And looking ahead, what excites you most about artificial intelligence and entrepreneurship?
For me, I would say the first thing that came to mind is the explosion of small businesses that now have a huge advantage. Mm-hmm. I have the privilege to work with these massive companies. But for the first time in my lifetime, small businesses have a distinct and significant advantage to move so much faster. than these other businesses without the legacy costs, without the legacy employees. You've got a team of 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 people. You have a massive advantage against those people that have the 200, the 300, the 400, 500 person place. So I've had the opportunity to now travel the world. Asia, just got back from Shanghai, all over Mexico, all over Canada, all over US. I've literally trained well over 1,000 businesses. And when I see those light bulbs going on, and then they call me or DM me on Instagram or whatever and go, oh my God, I just landed my first set of clients, or I've done this, or I've just now all my videos, or my impact is this, or I've got this new speaking presentation because I used your prompts to develop a webinar or a podcast, or whatever it was. And now it's working. I love those emails and messages more than anything in the whole world.
And there's so many tools outside.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from you this morning.
Awesome. Good. Then that's what juices me. Yeah. That's what makes me happy.
And, we're almost coming up on time. Back to giving back. The response today at the session, literally people were like, thank you so much. We really needed to hear this. And the light bulb that you mentioned, what are your plans for you, for the company, and what you're doing?
Well, I'll say this, is I started off by saying a couple bombs had dropped in my life. By taking action, by being relentless, by being patient, by being persistent, and by putting things right, putting first things first. I remarried my wife, put my family back together, rebuilt my business, and my health has never been better. And for me, I look forward to traveling the world, doing what I'm doing right now, working with businesses all over the world, making friendships with people all over the world. My kids get to travel with me, so my kids were in Shanghai with me. And talk about a blessing on a blessing. At one point, there's 100 some odd businesses there in the room, and they're all working with things like Lovable.dev and all these cool apps and building things. My kids were the facilitators. So I've got great pictures of my kids going, oh, Mr. So-and-so, here's how you do that. And he's 12, my son's 12. He's like, here's how you do that. But that's where things are. He doesn't have any design experience, development experience, anything like that. My daughter, at 15 at the time, she's like, oh, sir, this is how you do that, and this is how you do that, and she's helping. And my wife was facilitating. So the things I look forward to are the next generation of innovators, of dreamers, of action takers, of bold entrepreneurs, men and women just changing the world. I can't even imagine what they're going to create next. I mean, I can't even imagine. If I could have a little part of pushing that forward, then that'd be awesome.
And it would be awesome. It would be awesome. So thank you very much, Scott. We enjoy you this morning, and we enjoy this conversation a lot. And thank you for sharing your insight, your experience with us today, your vision on artificial intelligence, which some people worry, but we are excited at the same time, and we have to be excited. And you know what? All your story, it make me think about our own story as entrepreneurs. And like you mentioned, taking one chance, making what we need to do, that will take you to the next level. So thank you very much. And your leadership truly inspires other entrepreneurs. Thank you for being EO too, because that's important for our community too. So esta conversación con Scott ha sido realmente inspiradora. Nos reta a innovar, a liderar con propósito y a utilizar la tecnología para generar impacto real. Ahora pasamos al impacto, el programa de GSCA de EO Puerto Rico, y tenemos hoy a Salia García, Chair de GSCA, para nuestro capítulo.
Hola Salia, gracias por estar con nosotros en el programa hoy y gracias por la labor que haces como Chair del Global Student Entrepreneurship Award. Cuéntanos un poco sobre qué es GSCA y qué es lo que más te emociona de GSCA este año.
Pues gracias por tenerme. GSCA es una competencia de empresarios, básicamente, pero de empresarios jóvenes. Así que chicos que están en la universidad tienen que estar en la universidad y tienen que tener un empresarismo comenzado, pues entonces pueden competir para ser el mejor empresario de Puerto Rico, ¿verdad? El mejor empresario joven, y a su vez van a competir a una competencia regional y una competencia global si así cualifican.
¿Cómo este programa deja huella? Cuéntanos del impacto, porque nosotros vivimos enamorados de este programa, pero quien no lo conoce no sabe cómo es. Cuéntame.
Pues mira, el impacto es inmenso. Descubrimos sueños, gente que tiene sueños bien joven, y nosotros que llevamos algún ratito en nuestro empresarismo podemos llevarlos a lograr sus sueños más rápido, que aprendan de lo que ya nosotros sabemos, y ellos nos enseñan un montón, porque vienen con unas ganas de poder lograr sus sueños, de aprender, y eso tiene un impacto en cada uno de nosotros. Yo creo que es una manera muy fácil de nosotros con nuestro conocimiento a aportar al desarrollo de Puerto Rico, al desarrollo de los negocios aquí. Así que para mí es una misión hermosa y creo que dentro de los programas que tiene EO, para nosotros poder aportar es algo donde naturalmente podemos aportar y crear un impacto en esa persona que seleccionamos.
El programa ha tenido unos éxitos, o sea, en Puerto Rico, en GSCA, hemos ganado competencias, tenido finalistas. ¿Qué pasa con esos jóvenes durante el programa y después?
Mira, durante el programa lo más chévere es que antes de llegar a competir, ellos pasan por el proceso de Enterprise como estudiantes empresarios y cogen como 3 meses de training de qué es ser un empresario. Así que le damos educación para que comiencen. Y luego de que pasan por el programa, compiten, ganan, viajan para ganar y los últimos, por ejemplo, el año pasado llegamos 3er lugar en nivel regional. Pues no pasamos a la final, pero llegamos bastante. El año anterior llegamos a la mundial. Y Brian está hoy continuando con su emprendimiento y lo vemos, si lo busca en las redes sociales, ha tenido que pivotear su compañía. Estamos súper emocionados porque ellos están activos, o sea, siguen estando activos, siguen haciendo su emprendimiento.
Y esto para nosotros es como una forma de pay it forward. Yo creo que yo me acuerdo de Jeff Hoffman y lo tengo en mi corazón porque eso a todos mis empleados les digo, nuestro éxito es el milagro de alguien más. Y cuando nosotros aportamos a la vida de estos estudiantes que vienen creciendo, nosotros logramos lo que nosotros hemos logrado en ellos ahora, que crezcan mejor como personas, como miembros de una comunidad y como empresarios también. ¿Qué tú le dirías a nuestros compañeros EOers, ¿verdad?, que están considerando invertir en este programa? Porque necesitamos fondos, ¿verdad?, levantar fondos para este programa.
Levantar fondos es súper importante porque con eso es que vamos a incentivar que tengamos los mejores estudiantes empresarios compitiendo, porque así subimos nuestro price level. A la misma vez podemos añadir valor para poderlos llevar y darles más recursos para que ellos puedan competir mejor a nivel internacional. A nivel internacional la competencia es bien dura. Uh-huh. Así que todos los que se puedan envolver tanto en ayudarnos a preparar ese empresario para que me la foguee y esté allá y se sienta cómodo y pueda representarnos, pues eso es fabuloso. Igual el que pueda aportar dinero o con sus servicios in-kinds, la verdad es que los recibimos con mucho amor porque es de la manera que fortalecemos el programa y tenemos la posibilidad de ampliar, ¿verdad?, la oportunidad a más empresarios. Ahora mismo, con el budget que tenemos, pues escogemos 5 que son los que vamos entrenando para que compitan entre ellos. Si tenemos más presupuesto, pues vamos a tener espacios para más empresarios jóvenes que puedan competir. Así que eso es vital y yo creo que es una manera de, sí, pay it forward, pero también aprender en el camino.
Y esto se ha vuelto como una manera de hacer un llamado a jóvenes a nivel de Puerto Rico, de que el empresarismo es importante, ponerlos a soñar y realmente pues crear una nueva capa de empresarios que tanto lo necesita el país.
Yo creo que el empresarismo está de moda. Yo no sé cuántos podcasts hay ahora de que somos empresarios. Y yo creo que es importante que los empresarios jóvenes sepan que hay una plataforma que no solamente los educa en ese proceso de empresarismo, sino que los pone a foguear y a competir con otros empresarios para que entonces tengan la posibilidad de ver lo que otros empresarios de su edad están haciendo en el mundo. Y la calidad es absurda. Yo fui a Brasil y la competencia que teníamos era fuertísima. Y aunque nos enfocamos no en el negocio, sino en el empresario, realmente pues la calidad del negocio siempre tiene un impacto.
Excelente, pues muchas gracias por estar con nosotros hoy, Azalia. Y voy a hacer un llamado a todos los EOers. Pueden ser voluntarios, pueden ser jueces, pueden ser coaches, pueden brindar sus servicios. Y recuérdense que con este dinero lo que hacemos es reclutar, así que sigan proponiendo estudiantes, contándolos a sus hijos y también auspiciando para que estos jóvenes puedan viajar y puedan traer más mundo a Puerto Rico.
Muchas gracias, gracias por tenerme.
Este fue EO Impact Drivers, el podcast de EO Puerto Rico. La visión de Scott nos inspira a liderar distinto, a innovar con valentía y a construir un futuro con propósito. Suscríbete al podcast, compártelo con otros emprendedores y déjanos tu like para que más personas descubran estas historias. Ya saben, make it personal, make it purposeful, and make it matter. Hasta la próxima.